Prospector News is media for educational purposes only and should not be construed as advice. We are not a certified financial analyst, licensed broker, or fund dealer, exempt market dealer, or hold a license to provide financial advice. We provide no legal opinion regarding accounting, tax, or law issues. Nothing in this podcast should be construed as investment advice or the solicitation to buy or sell stocks or commodities. All opinions expressed are those of the participants and should not be relied upon when making investment decisions. Those decisions should be made with the advice of a personal financial advisor. If you have enjoyed our podcast, please hit the like and share buttons and be sure to hit subscribe. I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector News Podcast. And joining me today is returning guest Jeff Christian, the CEO and Managing Director of the CPM Group. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Good, Michael.
Good. Now, you and I are going to be joining each other in Spokane at the end of the month at the upcoming Silver Symposium. And you've got a couple of talks scheduled. One in particular caught my eye on Tuesday night. About dismissing the conspiracies around the silver markets.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I plan to do is run through some of the conspiracy theories and say, well, what are the evidence that these people have brought forth to support these? And then I'll talk about the evidence that might refute that, the various studies that the CFTC has done over a couple decades. And then I'll point out some evidence that a conspiracy does not exist. And, we might get into some issues about the integrity of the sources of the conspiracy claims, because I think that, personality does matter. And then we'll talk about some of the things that are put forth that are believed that are not necessarily true about the way silver and commodities trade.
Yeah. Now you've got a couple of guests joining you on that talk.
Right. We have Bob Coleman, who's a asset manager and also precious metals seller to high net worth individual investors, and stores metals too. And then we have Matthew Hunter. And Matthew, I've known since the 70s when he was a metals trader. And I have watched him through several careers. He ultimately went and was in market surveillance at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And then he went over and revived the CFTC's market surveillance operation. Basically, Gary Gensler was the chairman of the CFTC. The CFTC's market surveillance group was not particularly effective. And Matthew over at FERC was. So Gary said, what's it take to get you over here to, build up an effective market surveillance group? And he gave what he wanted. And so Matthew has retired. So he's the former deputy director of market surveillance at the CFTC. And he knows an enormous amount about the markets, both because of his jobs at FERC and CFTC, but also because he had prior to that spent 2 or 3 decades in the commodities trading business. So he's incredibly knowledgeable about not only the commodities markets and how silver and gold trade, but also what the government sees, what the government can't see, what the government does, what the government can't do. So I think he's going to be a tremendous asset in this open-ended discussion on Tuesday night. And he'll also be giving a presentation Tuesday during the conference itself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's all sorts of conspiracies surrounding what the government can and can't do and what they're doing to the market.
Yeah, it's amazing what they do see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a number of different misconceptions out there about how the market works that kind of lend themselves to some of the conspiracy talk about market manipulation in the precious metals, in particular silver. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I'll be running through some. So I've got some data, which we've updated. We used it for years. One of the misconceptions is that there's this atypical, unusual, unprecedented, large concentration of the short COMEX silver futures and options positions in the handfuls of like the 4 top trading commercials, which happen to be banks. And people will say, well, these top 4 commercial entities have this enormous concentration of the short positions. And the CFTC monitors 60 different futures markets. And of the 60, silver ranked 30th in terms of the percentage of open interest held by the 4 largest gross short position holders. 30th. So it's not atypical. And it was actually 25th in terms of the percentage of open interest of the 4 largest net positions. And so I've got various charts showing you that, gold, copper, oats, natural gas, they all have greater concentration of short positions than silver do for commercial short positions. And it's the nature of commodities trading and the nature of the over-specialization of banks and trading companies over the last 50 years that's behind this, but it's not unusual to silver. So I'll run through that and I'll show charts that, provide actual data that sort of flies in the face of what is often said about silver.
Yeah. Now, with those short positions, anytime there's a short position, there has to be a counterparty that's going long to offset that, doesn't there?
Yeah, and you're seeing this right now in gold and platinum and palladium. People don't understand who the commercials are. And a year and a half ago, we had a wave of new silver market commentators who kept talking about the commercials, and there were these comments like, I don't know why they include banks and trading companies as commercials, as commercial entities. And it's like, well, that's because that's who the commercial entities are. Most mining companies and refiners and industrial users of commodities do not trade futures and options directly. They go through a bank or a trading company. That's one point that is missed. Another point is that, if investors want to be long silver, they're in the futures market, you have to have someone who's going to go short. If there aren't investors who want to go short in an equal volume as investors wanting to be long, then market makers, i.e. commercials, i.e. banks, come in and say, well, I'm a market maker. If you want a net buyer, I will be a net seller. So people say it's amazing the extent to which the net shorts match the net longs. That's because for every long in the market, there has to be an offsetting short. And those shorts generally are taken up by commercials because that's their business. Now you've got the situation silver's virtually flat in terms of net long positions for investors and net short positions for banks. But in gold, platinum, and palladium, you have investor bearishness pushing the futures investors into negative net positions. So investors are net short gold, platinum, and palladium. And by consequence, the commercials are net long. And you have people saying, oh my God, what do the banks know that they're going net long? All the banks know is that their investor clients want to be net short and they're market makers. So if the investors want to be net short, the commercials are going to be net long. It's not like they have any great insight about a giant economic collapse coming or anything like that. It's just that they are providing financial services to investors who want to be investing in commodities futures.
And speaking of the banks, within the last couple of weeks, there's been 3 bank traders that have been convicted on spoofing the price of silver. And this has got the the conspiracy theorists online chins wagging pretty good, but I looked at it and I thought, here's a prime example where the regulators caught something that was offside and did their jobs. And spoofing isn't really going to affect the market significantly anyways, will it?
Well, first off, one of the three was acquitted.
My apologies.
The other two were found guilty on like 11 and 13 charges each. And then they had dozens of other charges that they were acquitted on. But, first off, spoofing does affect the prices for seconds or minutes, but people don't understand, and they confound spoofing with other longer term manipulation, which is what we want to focus on in our presentation in Spokane. But, spoofing is where you come in, and if you want to sell, you put some buy orders, which might drive the price up for a few minutes, and then you can sell at a higher price. Or equally often, if not more often, you want to buy, so you place some sell orders and you drive the price down, and then you buy at a lower price. But spoofing will drive the price up and it will drive the price down, and people don't get that. And they don't get the fact that spoofing is something that happens, that has an effect on the price for a matter of seconds or minutes, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the conspiracy theories about this long-term 50-year governments and central banks and private banks conspiring to suppress the gold and silver prices. Spoofing is not market manipulation on an ongoing basis, and it is not price suppression. Manipulation, but it's on a short-term basis.
Yeah, well, that leads me to the next question about all this. Everybody always talks about the conspiracies to suppress the market. My understanding, the banks make money if the market is rising more than if it's falling. I've never seen the lack of motivation to suppress the price of anything. Is there?
You have to, I mean, if you go into a court of law or you simulate a court of law, you follow legal principles. And one of them is, what's the motive? What bullion banks and trading companies, generally speaking, make more money at higher prices than they do at lower prices. And that's because they, generally speaking, charge a percentage of the value of the commodity involved in a trade. So if silver's at $20 instead of $15, the bullion banks will make 33% more because they're charging the same percentage on something that's 33% greater. So the bullion banks lack a commercial motive for suppressing the prices. Suppressing prices is against their best interest. So then the conspiracy theorists throw out this like, well, the government, some government somewhere, there's absolutely no evidence, but believe me, some government is paying these banks to suppress the silver price. And it just, again, that wouldn't hold up in a court of law. There's just no evidence that anything like that happens.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of belief and not a whole lot of fact goes behind some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, besides the Tuesday evening debunking the conspiracies we've talked about, you also have another presentation at the symposium. When's that, and what will the topic be for that one?
I'm doing a couple things there. I will give a speech on Wednesday morning called sort of like the real silver market. And I'll run through, my plan had been to talk about the real silver market, supply, demand, and price and investment demand. And I probably will do that. But right now, I sort of loaded down my PowerPoint with a lot of things about the unreal silver market too, which I think I'll pull out of that presentation and put into my presentation for the Silver Conspiracies talk on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday at lunchtime, we're having a box lunch open forum, which will be just, for an hour people can ask me questions. I don't have a formal presentation. If someone wants to come in and ask me about, the Mint Silver programs, I can tell them what I can publicly talk about. If they want to ask me about other issues related to silver or gold, it's pretty much, it's an open forum. And those things can be very interesting. Usually at the end of an hour, there are any number of questions that we haven't gotten to, but that should be pretty good. And then I'll be on at least one more panel during the symposium.
Perfect. So if you're anyways at all interested in the silver and the silver markets, and are going to be in the Spokane area on the 30th and the 31st of August, you should join Jeff and I at the Silver Symposium. There are going to be tons of experts talking about all sorts of topics in and around the silver markets, as well as silver forward companies that are presenting their projects and whatnot. I believe there's even a tour of the Bunker Hill mine, silver mine that's just over the line in Idaho, for people that are also interested. So you go to the silversymposium.com online and register, and I'm sure they're going to be more than happy to have you come and join the crowd.
I hope everybody shows. I hope it's a really good thing because, I love spending time talking about gold and silver and commodities with people. And the more people, the merrier.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So the more the merrier, and we look forward to seeing you down in Spokane.
I'll see you there.
If people want to get a hold of you, Jeff, how do they find your information?
Well, www.cpmgroup.com is our website, and you can send emails to info@cpmgroup.com if you want to have communications or order reports. A lot of our reports you can buy and download from the website.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing you down in Spokane, and I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you down in Spokane as well.
See you there.